Joining me now is Shanon Razsadin, Executive Director of the Military Family Advisory Network. Ms. Razsadin, what are some of the biggest factors for these families that lead to food insecurity?
We've seen a lot through our research about some of the compelling factors that are, consistent with what many Americans experience, but are nuanced to the military experience. So when you think about the military reality of moving every 2.5 years and living in a location where you don't necessarily have a say, or you're moving into a housing market that's incredibly difficult, growing families, difficulties with childcare, a single income sustaining the household. We know that military spouse employment has been a perennial issue. These are some of the factors that roll up and bring families to the point of, unfortunately, having to choose on what they spend money on. And unfortunately, often it's food that goes by the wayside.
So Congress has tried in a couple of different attempts to deal with this. There was a bill introduced in March to help some of these families that has been stalled. So are you hopeful any legislative action will come anytime soon?
We have actually seen a lot of progress recently. So I had the incredible honor of speaking a few weeks ago at the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health. And military families was actually a topic that was brought up in the conversation and as part of the president's real plan to address hunger in the United States by 2030. And so we are seeing progress. We are seeing things that are happening at the Department of Defense that will really look at things like compensation, like the basic allowance for housing, like how to support military spouses navigating employment challenge. And so we are seeing progress. It is a complex issue. And so some of the legislation that we've seen is related to SNAP and SNAP eligibility for military families, but that sits with the Farm Bill, which is a really large piece of legislation, has been difficult to move forward with. We also, though, we're seeing the basic needs allowance. That is now sitting with the Department of Defense, and we expect that to roll out in the January timeframe. And so we're hopeful that that will really provide some relief for military families who need it.
Yeah, and I'm interested, you know these families, you know these stories of those who are suffering from this. What is it like for those families, for people who are just hearing about this for the first time? Can you give us a little bit of a window into what life is like for families that are struggling with this?
Yeah, the military community is one that is incredibly proud, and there is this culture of resilience. And so that can make it really difficult for families to ask for support. We as an organization have been really working hard to uncover the causal factors that lead to food insecurity so that we can hopefully lower the barrier to support for families and help them realize that this is not personal. This isn't about money mismanagement. This isn't about making poor choices. This is about things that are happening in your life that make it sometimes hard to make ends meet. So we, over the course of the last couple of years, have hosted multiple food distribution events in the locations where we saw the highest frequency of food insecurity. We actually just hosted one this past weekend in Norfolk, serving more than 850 military households. And so we're seeing our lines getting longer, not shorter. And that tells two stories. That tells the story that the need is very much still there, but we're also seeing an increase in help-seeking behavior. We're seeing it a little bit easier for families to ask for help. Just 1.5 years ago, military family food insecurity was not something that was recognized widely. It was an issue that we were tracking and others in the space were. But when the Department of Defense released in July that 24% of active duty service members had experienced food insecurity in the last year, that gives military families the opportunity to take that exhale and realize that this isn't an issue that's their fault. They're not alone in this issue, and that it is okay to ask for help. And so as an organization, we've been really focused on figuring out the ways to get family support that they need it, regardless of what issue they might be presenting first. And so if they're at a food distribution event, could they also use help with childcare? Could they also use help with housing? Or if they're coming and seeking support related to employment, can we ask them, how are you doing with food? Do you know about this food bank, or do you know that you can go to the chaplains to get support in these areas? Because by asking the questions, it again makes it a little bit easier for people to say, yeah, okay, I do need help in this area. And it's something that military families should feel no shame in. And we're really working hard to really identify ways that we can promote the help-seeking behavior and get food to families in a really dignified way.
Shanon Razsadin, Executive Director of the Military Family Advisory Network. Shanon, thank you so much.
Thank you.